Hi everyone, here's the Bookchemist once again. Today I'm reviewing Moonglow, Michael Chabon's latest novel. It came out just a few weeks ago. Masterpiece. On my channel, I have never made a secret of my undying love for Michael Chabon's fiction. He is very much my favorite living writer, but there is one thing about his fiction. I won't call it a flow because I don't believe it is a flow, but one thing you should know, especially if you have never approached this stuff, which is that he never cuts any slack to his readers as far as his beginnings are concerned. I'm not talking about his first lines or first paragraphs, those are usually top-notch and very good. I'm talking about the first section of his books. They tend to be all over the place. This happens, for instance, with The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, in which you get these two cousins coming together for the first time and starting to plot their future plans and their careers, and then immediately you get a long flashback about the life of one of the two cousins. This happens even more with Telegraph Avenue, in which you get two kids on a skateboard, and then you get a man in a record store with a baby, and then you get this woman who is a midwife and she has problems, and then you get these guys at a trading card convention, and you don't really get what the point of all that is, where the novel is actually going. And in Moonglow this happens more than in any other of Chabon's novels. Up till the middle of the novel, I was liking the novel a lot because it's an immensely enjoyable novel, but I wasn't really sure what the point of the whole enterprise actually was. Moonglow is the memoir, the fictional memoir of Michael Chabon's maternal grandfather. And what you get in the book are several different episodes and stories from the man's life, from several moments in the man's life, told in parallel. You get the story of his experience as a GI during World War II, you get the story of his marriage with his problematic wife, you get the story of that tiny hunt for a snake in the Florida glades, and all of these stories are very interesting and very thrilling, but none of these triumphs over the others, so it's difficult to point exactly at what the point of the book is. And the result of this is that the book might look at first to be quite unambitious, which is actually the same that happens again with Telegraph Avenue, and which is quite weird because Telegraph Avenue, if you read it closely, it's actually a novel about how popular culture might bridge the gaps between different ethnic groups and social classes in America. It's a novel about how popular culture might actually achieve the American dream, which is kind of a fucking ambitious topic if you think about it. The problem is that the topic is stuffed inside the story of basically two guys trying to save their record store from failure, which is not especially grandiose. If you take again Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, the story is basically the stories of two guys coping with their own demons and with their own problems, but it's pitched against the backdrop of, you know, the golden age of superhero comic books and World War II and these epic journeys of revenge and escape. And this doesn't necessarily, and of course a novel such as Amazing Adventures wears its epicness on its sleeves, whereas Telegraph Avenue and even more Moonglow do not. But make no mistake, this does not at all mean these are not ambitious novels, and Moonglow in particular is pretty much a novel about the importance and the nature and the value of storytelling. And all of these stories you get are crucial because the novel makes a very compelling case that storytelling is a crucial and needed element of human life. Moonglow intertextualizes extensively, discusses extensively with several other texts, key among them Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. Moonglow is by far the most Pynchonian among Chabon's novels. Telegraph Avenue was written in a very Pynchonian style. It read a lot like a late Pynchon novel such as Inherent Vice, but this Moonglow, even though it reads very differently, it's, in my opinion, the most Pynchonian among his books. I'll tell you why in a second. It intertextualizes a lot with Gravity's Rainbow, and most notably because one of the key elements of this book, one of the key images, is that of the V2 rocket, which in amazing Chabonian fashion, it's a symbol, of course, of escape, of the possibility for people, for human beings to escape the boundaries of Earth, to go into space, to escape the chains of gravity and of all the Earth's problems. But at the same time, it also becomes an instrument of death in the hands of governments and of the military-industrial complex. And this idea itself of technology as good or bad and of the way good things eventually turn out dreadful is in itself quintessentially Pynchonian. The book also significantly refers to Gravity's Rainbow directly. Nerdy fun fact, this is the second time this happens. Chabon already did that in Wonder Boys, The More You Know, and in this way, like our good friend, the anti-Semite motherfucker TS Eliot will say, Chabon also influences the literature that comes before, because when a good work of literature adds to a specific canon, to a specific tradition, it doesn't just add to that tradition, it also changes the books that came before. And I, for instance, will never read Gravity's Rainbow the same after I've read Moonglow, and Gravity's Rainbow is kind of the big deal in contemporary American fiction, and that by itself is no easy feat that Chabon actually pulled off with Moonglow. But what do I mean when I say that Moonglow is a very Pynchonian novel? On this channel, I've talked several times about how I believe Thomas Pynchon appeals to a specific kind of reader, a reader who is so addicted to storytelling and who loves storytelling and narrative so much that they just can't get enough of it. And Thomas Pynchon gives them what they want, because in Thomas Pynchon books you get these very epic narratives in their scope, but on a page-by-page basis you get an overgrowth of stories. You get stories within stories within stories. Every time you meet a new character, you read about their story, and these people usually either met some kind of weird alien creature, or visited some impossible land, or had some other surreal episode in their life. It's just too good to be true, and all this storytelling keeps happening, and all these narratives keep adding up to a wonderful big picture, which is exactly the same point of Moonglow. You get all these different stories, all these different narrative arcs, and the point is the telling itself. The point is just getting all of these stories and like basking in the greatness of narrative itself. Thomas Pynchon's novels do not quite break the boundaries between genres, as they tap into the core of storytelling, which doesn't give a shit about genres in the first place. And kind of the same happens to Moonglow. Michael Chabon is famous because he wrote several novels in different genres, and Moonglow is a realist novel through and through, but at the same time, the core and a vein and an attitude of, for instance, science fiction, or horror, or fantasy, or adventure in the different storytelling, in the different arcs of the novel, is always there and is always about to come true. And I actually have a theory that if you read the novel closely enough, it is quite possible to read Moonglow as a horror story, and I mean a straight up monsters horror story. Overall, the fact that I love this book might just be a matter of mathematics. This, as I said, is a very Pynchonian novel by Michael Chabon, and Michael Chabon throughout his whole production is a quintessentially Lovecraftian author. And keep in mind that Lovecraft, Chabon and Pynchon are pretty much my favorite writers, my holy trinity of literature, so it's kind of like impossible for me to dislike a book such as this. I'll tell you what though, one thing I believe to be universally acknowledgeable is that to me, Chabon is among Pynchon's disciples, and there are a shitload of those around, he is the best. For one reason, which is that he is the one writer who took the core of Pynchon's fiction and of Pynchon's ideas and narratives and took into his own production and added to it and implemented it into his own style and his own fiction. Pynchon is kind of a contagious writer on a matter of style, on a matter of the way he talks. For instance, he uses science and technology to talk about philosophy, those kinds of things, and lots of writers out there imitate those things. Chabon himself, as I said, had fun imitating or implementing some of Pynchon's styles in Telegraph Avenue, for instance. But Chabon doesn't just copy Pynchon, he implements on it. He uses Pynchon to do his own thing, basically, and that is the thing that makes him the best, if you ask me, among Pynchon's disciples. Again, I've been rambling for a while now. What can I say? This is an amazing novel. It's utterly heartbreaking. I finished it last night and I was crying my eyes out like a little bitch. It has one of the best and, to me, most unexpected plot twists I have met in quite a while. It features an amazingly heartbreaking reflection on how, in a way, Nazi Germany might have actually won World War II, which is terribly heartbreaking, as I said, especially in today's world, considering what's going on in the world. It's an amazing, I want to say it's a perfect novel, because it kind of is a perfect novel, if you love storytelling. I'm not 100% sure it is a good novel to start with Chabon. It's a good first Chabon novel for those of you who don't know his stuff, because I believe it is. I actually believe it is, because it's very enjoyable and very rewarding, but you have to stick with it for a while, and you have to keep in mind, as I said at the beginning, that for the first half of the book you might not be especially mind blown. You'll have to wait for the second half to get your reward. That's it. Let me know what you think of Moonglow, guys. I haven't checked any of the reviews online on papers and such, but maybe I'll check a few. I'm very curious because, for instance, I loved personally Telegraph Avenue a lot, but I know that several readers maybe weren't too much in love with it, so I'm curious to know if you people love Moonglow as much as I do or don't. Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one. The book I'm reading at the moment, since we mentioned Pynchon, is actually the last Pynchon novel I still have to read, and after I read this I'll make up my mind about my top 10 books I've read in this year, which I'm sure all of you are expecting with all your art, and I'll publish it on my channel. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.